Hey everybody, welcome to another modern video here today. My name is Oren, and let me just start with the fact that I am overseas right now, and I'm incredibly jet lagged, so I do apologize if I speak a little slowly, or I maybe make a wrong play here or there, but I'm going to do my best to, play as tightly as I can here. But it's been a while since I made another series, so I just wanted to bring you guys something fresh, even though I am currently away from home. But let's get right into it then. With every new set that comes out for standard, we're always looking for the next big thing, something that gets released that pushes a certain archetype, to tier two or tier one, or just makes a viable tier two or tier three strategy, anything of that nature. And out of all the cards that came out in Hour of Devastation. Honestly, Champion of Wits was one of the first cards that caught my eye. Now let's read the card. It's 3 mana, 2 colorless, 1 blue. When Champion of Wits enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. Now that by itself is just a faithless looting stapled onto a body. But let's keep reading. It has Eternalize for 7 mana. Exile this card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie, Naga wizard, etc., with no mana cost. Eternalize only as a sorcery. So, when it comes back to the battlefield as a 4/4, you get to draw 4 cards and then discard 2 cards. So that right there is card advantage. But Modern is a very fast format. It's going to be very difficult to make it that long, right? So if you want to play the card to have both sides relevant, you need a deck that first of all can get value off of the discard, or can make it long enough to survive to turn 7 to start turning the corner with these draw 4s, discard 2s, 4/4 creatures, and that's exactly what we're doing here today. So let's talk about the deck. A lot of you might be familiar with a deck called Esper Gifts, which did really well a while back, but has kind of fallen off the scene in the past a year or so, probably a little more. So let's talk about the deck. The deck uses the card called Gifts Ungiven, which you can search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Now the neat trick with Gifts Ungiven is that it says search up to 4 cards with different names, which means you can search for only 2 cards and they will both automatically be sent to the graveyard. Now what that allows us to do is essentially search for Unburial Rites as one of those cards, and then we have 2 reanimation targets here, which can just take over a game, which Iona can really shut down linear decks that rely on certain colors of mana. Or we have Elish Norn, which completely shuts down decks that go wide and might have little to no interaction. So these are the 2 premium targets for reanimation in Modern at the moment. Some decks have also used Grave Titan. I'm opting to go for less, no Grave Titan today. Basically, my Unburial Rites package is going to be mostly to do unfair things, while the rest of the deck does fair things. Now, Grave Titan sits in that in-between spot where it's actually, actually castable in most games. But I think it just doesn't do enough, especially to combat some of the unfair decks in the format. So I made sure to, have some answers in the rest of the deck. So let's talk about that. So first of all, what's nice about Champion of Wits is that when you draw 2 cards, you can first of all discard any of these 3 if you have them in your opening hand, which can be very clunky sometimes. The issue with gifts is that if you draw your reanimation targets, it's sometimes very difficult to get them into the graveyard. Now, with the release of Champion of Wits, as well as Collective Brutality, which we'll get into in a second, you're able to mitigate those draws and have consistent draws much more often. So that's what I really like about Champion of Wits. You can also search it up with Gifts Ungiven if you want to go for a value gifts, and your opponent has the option of, say, giving you the Champion of Wits straight to your hand, or sending it to the graveyard, in which case you can eternalize it from there, and that's a value as well. So it's almost like you're drawing a 3rd card, which is what Gifts Ungiven aims to do, get a lot of value. You also have Lingering Souls. First of all, just another great card to get off Gifts Ungiven. It's great against Death Shadow and other control and mid-range matchups. So that's what it's there for. Collective Brutality is great, especially when you have all these juicy cards to discard. Lingering Souls, Champion of Wits, this Unburial Rites package. We're playing one Think Twice. We have two Snapcaster Mages in the deck, so what we discard isn't always that hurtful to us. So I do really, really like the synergy between the graveyard in this deck. Then we have a Mana Leak and a Logic Knot, a 1/1 split, just to, because sometimes the game does go long, and we want to be able to actually counter things in the late game, whereas Mana Leak can have trouble doing that. We have 3 Fatal Push, 3 Path to Exile. That's our, spot removal suite, 4 Serum Visions, and then we have 2 Thoughtseize to tag along. I think it's really important to be able to deal with big mana and combo decks. Those are decks that this deck might have trouble with. It's also great against mid-range and control matchups in Game 1, where you kind of want to push your combo through and make sure that your creatures don't, die. And also just disrupts your opponent. It works in a wide array of matchups. But it does get sided out, in sometimes the more aggressive matchups like Affinity, Burn, etc., etc. And the last thing we didn't talk about was the sweeper package. So you might be asking, why are you running 3 different sweepers? That doesn't make much sense. Well, Gifts Ungiven asks you to search the library for up to 4 cards with different names. So what this allows you to do is, cast Gifts Ungiven, and you have Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, and, one other card, maybe like a Snapcaster Mage in that pile, which basically forces your opponent to give you at least 2 sweepers. From that pile, no matter what they do. They can either give you a Snapcaster Mage plus a sweeper, in which case you can snap back one of the other sweepers that got discarded, or you just straight up get 2 sweepers. And most of the time that'll be enough to close out games against more aggressive decks, if you can kind of mitigate the life loss up until turn 4. Overall, though, that's what the triple Wrath package is there for, and it actually works very, very well. So, usually these decks don't play more than 23 lands. I'm opting for 25 because we're playing cards like Champion of Wits, which we want to eternalize. It's a really great card against fair matchups. So what we can do there is run a slightly higher land count, and then we still get to play, Shambling Vents, Celestial Colonnade. So it's not like we're just playing, bad cards or upping our land count too much. We're playing a solid mana base here in order to, first of all, consistently cast our spells, hit 4 mana throughout the game, which is also important, as well as take advantage of Champion of Wits in the late game. So that is what I really, really love about this deck so far. But let's talk about the sideboard. I took a lot of inspiration from the sideboard from Francesco Amati. He is one of the founders of Esper Transcendent. And the sideboard actually works very well. So let's talk about some of the choices here. I really like Blessed Alliance right now. First of all, the Eldrazi matchup is certainly not easy. So being able to handle a wide array of threats is really important to have. It also comes in the burn matchup. It comes in against Affinity to deal with Etch Champion. It does a lot of different things, which is what I really like about Blessed Alliance. We play a 1-of Celestial Purge here. Now I'm really happy with Celestial Purge's position in the meta. I think, especially because we're not a Jeskai deck, we need to set up 3 colors to handle Blood Moon. So Celestial Purge really helps there. It also deals with Death Shadow. You have a 1-of Disenchant here because a lot of times your opponents are going to bring in hate against you, right? So being able to interact with that hate is going to be important. It's also just another way to interact with artifacts and enchantments, which Esper can sometimes have a difficult time with. Let's go ahead and talk about Sunscore's Champion really quickly. You might think that's a really ridiculous choice, but this is actually a prime choice for life gain, right? Because, okay, it's 3 mana, and it's a very good blocker with 3 toughness, which generally blocks most of Burn's creatures. And then it also has Eternalize, which means that you can fetch it up with Gifts Ungiven over here, and if they send it to your graveyard, you can actually Eternalize it for 4 mana, and discarding a card is not actually that much of a downside when you have cards like Iona and Elish Norn that you sometimes want to get out of your hand, or Lingering Souls, Champion of Wits, etc., etc. There's a lot of things you can discard that makes, discard a card not actually a downside, but actually it's makes things pretty good. So you have a 4/4 that then enters the battlefield and gains you 4 life. It's kind of a build your own obstinate Bailoff, right? And which has this discard synergy in the deck. Um, it also has the option of coming down on turn 3, and then also coming down on turn 4 if it gets removed. So I really like Sunscore Champion, especially with the fact that you can fetch it up with gifts. It's incredible, and it actually helped me stabilize multiple times against burn while testing the deck. And then we have 2 Ceremonious Rejection because like Tron is going to be one of the worst matchups here. We're not attacking lands, so we're just going to try to hope to dodge Tron, especially because Iona does nothing to shut them down. So the best way to beat Tron, usually you don't win game 1. Honestly, you don't win game 1. Best way to win them against game 2 is you side out some of your dead cards, and then you beat them down with Lingering Souls, Champion of Wits, backed up by a bunch of counterspells. But that's really the only way to do it, in my opinion. I think it's a very difficult matchup. We're running 2 Dispel just because we want to be able to win the control matchups as well as be able to fight combo. Disdainful Stroke might be, you think, an odd choice, but it's actually really good at dealing with all of Scapeship's threats and also handles Tron, which is a rough matchup. And it can sometimes be brought in against control as well. So keep that in mind. 1 of Negate, again, helps against combo, control, all these different types of decks. 1 Detention Sphere has this catch-all, removal spell that deals with non-creature permanents pretty easily, as well as for creature permanents. And then we have a 1 of Countersquall, so we have a 1/1 split here in order to fetch it up with gifts if we need to. So we can make a pile of like Logic Knot, Countersquall, Negate, like Mana Leak, and that is like that's 2 mana counters that can be fetched instant speed to interact with our opponent, and we'll get at least 2 of them. So that's what I like about diversifying this package here. And then we also have 2 Nile Spellbomb. This is just to interact with some graveyard-based decks. We're not going too all in because Dredge while it's a tough matchup, it's not actually unwinnable if we can land an Elesh Norn and then maybe counter Conflagrate. So definitely not an unwinnable matchup. We just have to survive long enough and hope that they don't get the nut start. So overall, that's the deck. We're going to jump into a modern competitive league here, run it through 5 games, and see how well it does. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for 5 rounds of a modern competitive league, followed by closing statements. See you soon. Hey guys, welcome to the first match here. Let's take a look at our opening hand. We have Fatal Push for interaction. We have Collective Brutality plus Lingering Souls, which is a great interaction. And we have Unburial Rites, which is kind of a dead card in hand, but if we find something to discard with Collective Brutality, it may be pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand, as I think it has a lot of the pieces to compete. So this is the first match of Modern Competitive League, and let's see what our opponent is up to. Ooh, okay, Red, White, Sun, and Moon. All right. This is going to be a tough matchup, especially without our counterspells game 1. So we're going to have to mindfully, let's see, what colors do we want to prioritize? We want to prioritize probably blue and black, right? I think those are the 2 most important colors for the deck. Let's go ahead and, yeah, because we're on the draw, I'll go ahead and lead with this fetch here. In case they go like turn 2 Blood Moon, I'm going to go ahead and crack my fetch. Chalice on 1. That's fine. And I'm not going to crack the fetch yet. Okay. Here we'll go ahead and just pass the turn. Make sure we can have Blood Moon protection. We could go Collective Brutality right now, discarding Fatal Push. The issue is, though, if they land a Blood Moon, I actually kind of want to make sure I can discard Lingering Souls, too. And there's nothing we want to protect, like, at the moment. So, obviously, we basically drew 2 very dead cards in the matchup. And that's the issue game 1 sometimes with decks like ours that play not many counterspells, is that we're so heavily trying to beat the creature matchup that obviously the non-creature matchup is going to give us a headache. Massive, massive headache. See what our opponent opts to do here. Probably nothing, I imagine. They very rarely have anything to play on turn 2 other than a Chalice of the Void. Hallowed Fountain, interesting. This could let us just go Lingering Souls right now. I wonder if that will run it into like a Anger of the Gods from our opponent, which might be a reason to just Collective Brutality here. But at the same time, if they're casting Anger of the Gods, it means they're not casting like Nahiri or Chandra or something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a blue. There's an argument for getting a white here, right? Currently we have no blue cards. I mean, yeah, if we draw Serum Visions or Gifts Ungiven, it's gonna be rough, but we could get black and white and then Path to Exile our own Souls token, which will give us blue mana as well. Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get white and black here. Gotta be careful with my clicking. Don't want to click the wrong thing by accident. Swamp. We'll shock that in. And now we'll play Lingering Souls. I'm going to go ahead and basically let our opponent do whatever they want to do at this point. Let's see if we get Blood Moon or Anger of the God. Alright, so we got Blood Moon. So now we can at least path our token. Sweet. Okay. So we're in a pretty decent position, I would say. Let's go ahead and... I think this is where we would want to clear the way. Let's do. We want to do it with 2 modes. We can reveal their hand and make them lose 2 life. Basically, Fatal Push is dead right now, so let's go ahead and reveal their hand. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. So they have Anger and Wrath. They also have a lot of hate in their hand. A lot of Blood Moon and Snaring Bridge. Snaring Bridge is going to be tough to deal with, for sure, in a matchup like this. Especially because we're helping them decrease their hand size. I'm going to go ahead and obviously take away their Anger of the Gods. I'm gonna get in here for 2 damage. If they didn't have Ensnaring Bridge, I would feel pretty good about, you know, our position in the game here, but because of that Ensnaring Bridge. Alright, so they have no white mana though, which is actually pretty relevant. Yeah, there's that Ensnaring Bridge. Means they won't be able to... Wow. Alright, so Sweepers are pretty dead right now. So let's go ahead and just flashback our Lingering Souls. And now we just have to hope our clock is fast enough that they get stuck with that Wrath of God in hand, which is a pretty big non-bow with Ensnaring Bridge, right? They might be forced to hardcast a Simian Spirit Guide next turn, which would put us in a really good position. Okay, alright. All you, opponent. What you got? Alright, Blood Moon, sure. Alright, well, I think I'm going to favor our clock here over Path to Exile so I can cast Serum Visions. I'm basically only going to Path to Exile in response like a sweeper, I think. Because this is how we win the game. These Lingering Souls. And the fact that they can't sweep up the board. So this is a 4-turn clock. And because they don't have white mana, they do have very few. Alright, so there's a white mana. Speaking of white mana, that's actually one of their better draws here. A Johnny. It's very interesting. Okay. That's a pretty good draw. You're probably going to tap down one of my Souls tokens and force me to go after a Johnny. Yeah. The question is, I think I have to go after a Johnny, is the issue. Okay. The question is, do I path to exile? I don't think so. Could be wrong. We're going to attack all of them at a Johnny. This is so that they can't use the -3. Alright, now we just have to hope they don't draw like basic planes off the top, because that would be the worst for us. That would be the absolute worst. Now imagine if they don't draw the... Yeah, they're just hard casting Simian Spirit Guide. Sure. Elish Norn, you say, huh? Oh, I don't have double planes in the deck, so that's... Ah! Wait. Oh, I can reanimate that. I don't think they have any instant speed removal for double red. At least none that I can think of. So I'm going to go ahead and send 2 at a Johnny. I'm going to go ahead and cast with 2 Mo's. I don't want to reveal... I don't actually want to discard anything from their hand, oddly enough. And now we can set up for the kill next turn. Oh, no, we can't, because they have Ensnaring Bridge, right? So it's only if they don't play anything here. Still, I don't think that's necessarily a bad play. Alright, another Simian Spirit Guide, sure. Yeah, so because they have 2 cards in hand, if I pumped my board with Elish Norn, then I'd be in a pretty rough spot. Basically, they're out here as planes. Planes Wrath of God. And if they draw it, they draw it. If they don't, you know. Alright. We got there. So game 2, I think we should have a much better chance here. We get to bring in Purge, Disenchant, Negate, Disdainful Stroke, Detention Sphere, Counter Squall. We get to side out all of this stupid stuff that we really don't want in this matchup. We can cut Fatal Push. And everything else feels pretty live in this matchup. So as long as we can set up our basics... I don't like Dispel in the matchup all that much. Sunscore Champion, I mean, like, it's another creature, it's another threat, but I don't think we need it. Yeah, I think this is a pretty solid setup here. Let me make sure I'm not missing any cards. I mean, this can counter Chalice of the Void. I don't think I'm going to care that much. Path to Exile is just basically in there to target our own basics. I mean, target our own creatures to get our own basics in there. Overall, I think this is a pretty fine setup. If we can land an Iona and name white, our opponent is going to have such a difficult job of dealing with that. I imagine they bring in Rest in Peace in this matchup, though. So it's important to be wary of that. We do have Disenchant, Detention Sphere that can deal with that. But, okay. So, yeah, this is a keep. As long as we don't get, like, turn 1 Chalice, which I don't think we will. Yeah. Oof, okay, so now we have a choice. We can get Basic Island or Basic Swamp. I think we'll go ahead and get Basic Swamp. And just start disrupting our opponent. Alright, so they... Boros Charm. Oh, okay, so permanents gain indestructible, right? We'll go ahead and take the Rest in Peace. I imagine they're gonna try to jam their turn 3 Blood Moon, in which case we can cast Disenchant on it. Now hopefully they don't draw Simian Spirit Guide here. Nothing we can really do about that though. I'll go ahead and shock that in there. Like I said, protection against Blood Moon, very important. Basically, if we're able to jam this Disenchant on turn 3 here, we'll be in a pretty good spot. That way we can either keep up Disdainful Stroke next turn or cast Serum Visions, depending on what we draw. You know, we're going to be in a pretty good spot. Assuming our opponent doesn't draw, like, double Blood Moon. Then, of course, you know, not in the best of spots. What? Alright, now that I did not see coming. Okay. Taking a lot of damage from our mana base here. I think we don't know about this plains anymore, yeah. Maybe we already didn't know about that plains? I don't know. No, they have double plains. Whatever. I think, yeah, we know these 3 cards. I think there's one unknown in our opponent's hand. So Molten Rain, that was a pretty good draw, right? At least now we can keep up Stroke or Disenchant if our opponent jams like an Ajani or a Nahiri here. Wow, so they're gonna go for the protect the Blood Moon with Boros Charm play, which is, well, it's gonna do the thing. It's gonna do the thing they want it to. Maybe we should have taken Boros Charm. Maybe we just don't care about Rest in Peace at this point. Brutality, huh? Would have been nice a turn ago. Now, if they don't draw the land, I wouldn't mind picking up another land here, like a basic, because I feel in a really bad position now without basic swamp. All right, so so they have the combo, right? Oh, they're not going for it. Oh my god. Oh, this is great. So now I can get now I can get basic plains with that. So here they're probably going to send the Boros Charm upstairs, which is fine. Let's see what our opponent is working with here. Alright, so we take an Anger of the Gods. All they have is Blood Moon and Sacred Foundry, and I think that is a position that we can win from. Next turn we can set up for gifts. Okay, so they have one unknown in hand. They may be able to deploy 2 spells this turn for sure. They do have that capability. Alright, so they're shocking. Let's go ahead and get a basic plane. And now we'll try to destroy that Blood Moon. Alright. Blood Moon is destroyed. Sweet. Polluted Delta, great draw. It'll let me get Oh wait, my swamp is gone, but it'll let me get an island. And here I'll be able to gift ungiven end of turn for Iona, plus Unburial Rites. And then I'll name white. And that way they won't be able to Wrath of God. They'll have to like cobble up like double anger plus something else, you know? So, and we're also keeping up Disdainful Stroke here if we need to. All right? Yeah, I'll go ahead and stroke that. Like, we're in no rush. Let's see, did they keep on top or bottom? Put a card on top of their library. Okay. Island. Great draw. I think, yep. I'm actually going to go ahead and play it, just in case I need to go for a value gift and, like, search up triple counterspell or something like that. In order to counter something, like, really big off the top, like that. I mean, that'll force some action here. So we don't have basic swamp in our deck anymore, so we're just gonna go ahead and fetch up an island. So now we want to make sure we keep Logic Knot up. All right, so we can get. Thing is, now we're not winning the game. You know, that's the issue. I would say that's the biggest issue. We could go for Champion of Wits plus triple counterspell. And that way we can get Champion of Wits to our hand. Because the other option is Snapcaster Mage. I actually like that. I like that a lot. So we'll do Counter Squall, Negate. Because we want a way to actually win the game. We don't want to just be sitting here for a long time. And this way we can counter whichever counter spell they give us, we can use it to counter the Ensnaring Bridge. I mean, Snapcaster Mage might have been the safer draw for sure. My guess is our opponent gives us Champion of Wits plus Logic Knot here. That seems to make the most sense to me. Two, three, four, five, six. We'll have the 7th mana for Champion of Wits if they decide not to give that to us. I imagine they will, though, because that's a card that if we even just get one more land, it could get us so far ahead. So I suspect... Oh, wow, they sent it to the graveyard. That's kind of great, actually. So we want to do one for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? They have 4 mana open. Alright. So right now we're in a pretty good spot. Elish Norn, I mean, it's a pretty good card. That might actually be the better play than Champion of Wits. Because then when I cast Champion of Wits, it'll come into play with 6 power. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Might be a little greedy, but... Could be very greedy. If we draw a land off the top here, though, we can. All right, collective brutality. Um, I imagine we'll draw a land here, though. Let's go ahead and attack first. They might have like Blessed Alliance, though. Or not. We go into damage. But now I can flashback Champion of Wits, or, eternalize it. And I'll, draw like 6 cards here. Maybe I should keep up Hallowed Fountain, just in case I need to Path to Exile. And now so now I get to draw 6 cards. Get to discard a bunch of junk. And I get to still keep up negate. So yeah, we're in a great spot here. I'm not really sure what my opponent can cobble up to finish us here. I think Ensnaring Bridge plus Wrath of God would probably be like their best bet. Well, in this case, I think they're dead, right? So we rev up the Shambling Vent. And that should be a total of 14 damage coming through. Our opponent's thinking, anything that can get them out of this. Maybe I should have Collective Brutality first. There's definitely an argument for that. I can still do it to be safe, but I think our opponent is thinking through here. What can I do at this point? Not much, I think. Not much, opponent. All right, our opponent took a while to respond, but I'm gonna go ahead and make the Collective Brutality play. Cast it with 2 modes, just to make sure. We'll discard a Seachrome Coast. All right, 2 lands in hand. Good game, opponent. Bam! So we take match 1 against Red, White, Sun, and Moon. So thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for the second match here with Esper Wits Gifts. See you soon. Hey guys, thanks for joining me for some life talk right now. So I touched on it a little bit before. I'm overseas right now visiting family, so it's very hard for me to find large gaps of time to record. And I know you guys are waiting for more content, always looking for more content, and I'm doing my best to keep up with it, believe me. But I do have to deal with some stuff in real life right now, so it's going to be a bit slower. So what I'm thinking about doing is kind of trickling out the content. So what that'll allow me to do is record 1 video a day. I will edit it and release it during the same day, and then I'll release 1 video every 1 to 2 days, because that's likely what's going to happen when I start graduate school too. It's going to be very difficult for me to record, like 8 hours during the day. So I'm going to carve out like, an hour and a half to 2 hours per day. That way I can record 1 video for you, put it out that same day, and there you go, you have a video. So I am definitely looking for feedback on what you think about that. I'd like to know, because I've seen other content creators do the same thing. They release 1 video a day. At the same time, I've seen other content creators release everything all at once. So let me know what you guys prefer. I can definitely, at least right now, I don't have much flexibility. It's going to be 1 video per day while I'm on vacation visiting family. But once graduate school starts, I can try to carve out time during like the weekend or some other free time that I can find. Do 8 hours a day, if that's what you prefer. So please let me know in the comments on Facebook. Let me know any way you can what you think, or what would be most comfortable for you, what you would enjoy the most. regarding the time between videos, whether you want it all at once or one every 1 to 2 days is fine. Please do let me know. I'll definitely, do my best to keep up with it every day if you guys are okay with that. But yeah, so that was just the first video with Esper Wits Gifts. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing, liking the video. I'll leave my Patreon link. Consider donating there if you so desire. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned tomorrow for the next video in the Modern Competitive League with Esper Wits. See you guys soon.